Trump told the cattle ranchers to get like it.
Who knew that importing beef from Argentina was going to leave American farmers and ranchers questioning Trump's loyalties? First, the tariff wars undercut American soybean farmers, and now Trump is importing beef from Argentina. They want to know what's going on here.
Everybody's wound up today because Trump says we're going to import all this beef from Argentina. We're going to lower our beef prices because the beef's too expensive here. Is the government getting involved because of the prices and saying the beef prices are too high? We're going to make a deal. We're going to buy a bunch of beef from Argentina, and we're going to undercut the American farmers and ranchers who are finally making some decent money. And that's just, it's a socialist mindset, if you ask me. That's not what I've grown up thinking as an American market, supply and demand. Where did that go? We're going to lower our beef.
That's actually free market capitalism, you jack. Yeah, that shit you voted for, that's what it is.
All right, so first we bankrupt the American soybean farmers, and now we bankrupt the cattle baron. Well, MAGA, I thought prices were already lower. And I know y'all aren't going to go get some Argentinian cows when we have perfectly good MAGA cows here in America. I mean, do those Argentinian cows even understand English? Strangely for you guys running this whole America First thing, it sure seems like every other country in America is coming first.
Now, some of those cattle farmers who overwhelmingly did support the president in last year's election are making clear that they do not agree with his plan.
Consumers will tell us when the beef is too high. I think it's outlandish for the president to come out and say the beef is too high and he's going to get it down himself. What is his problem with higher priced beef? Because consumers have a choice in proteins. There's chicken, there's pork, there's all different proteins. Consumers have chose to buy beef. President Trump ran on being a free market guy. So what he was saying last week goes totally against what he ran on.
Do you remember when I said Trump was going to give Argentina $20 billion to bail out their failing economy, influence an election, and help one of their billionaire buddies make a bunch of money? Yeah, now he's going to give them $40 billion, and he's buying their beef instead of helping our farmers. As I've previously stated, the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, demolished his economy. And with the influence of our Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, the U.S. was going to send them $20 billion to prop up their economy and make it look pretty to hopefully help Milei get re-elected. As a nice thank you, Milei decided to remove tariffs from China so he could sell them soybeans at the exact time that China stopped buying soybeans from us because Trump put tariffs on China. A guy named Rob Citron, who's a minority owner in the Steelers and a hedge fund guy, has invested billions of dollars into Argentinian bonds. He also is very close friends with Scott Bessent and claims to be the one who convinced Bessent to convince Trump to shell out $20 billion. That initial $20 bill plus the soybean sales was going to make Rob so wealthy. And now Trump turns around and goes, you know what? Let's double it and buy their screwworm beef. Screwworms are flesh-eating maggots that live in beef. So the next time someone tries to tell me that this orange man is smart and he's running this country like a business, remember that he's buying Milei's meat and paying him $40 billion on top of that. And to match that, Milei is screwing Trump and the US by selling soybeans, the exact thing we were selling to China. And on top of that, Rob Citron is using this administration like a dish rag to profit off of Argentinian bonds. Screw the US farmers, I guess.
So to this fucking moron who's literally saying that it's a socialistic program that's happening, that they're importing beef from Argentina, let me inform you on something. Socialism would mean that the United States of America wants to help you stay afloat, so they would give you government funding. Capitalism is where they're saying, let's see if you can compete, because if you can't compete, you're going to get left behind. This is a capitalistic world that we live in here in America. It has nothing to do with socialism, something that you voted for. So you get to reap the benefits of probably losing your farm like other farmers as well too.
U.S. farmers really did themselves a number when they voted for Donald Trump. You would think that they'd be smarter considering that they had already gone through 4 years of his administration. That was no help to them whatsoever. Well, now that they went and voted this fucking clown in, their farms are on the verge of being gone forever. And I am talking about farms that have been in families for generations. But it's really hard to sympathize with these people because they really gave no fucks about me or people of color or LGBTQ. So at this point, I really don't give a fuck about them either. And to add insult to injury, Donald Trump just announced that he is going to be getting beef for our U.S. citizens from Argentina, not the U.S. farmers.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks again for tuning in. Alright, buckle up your seats because I'm about to talk about what might just flip your assumptions of what America First really means, especially for MAGA Americans. Today we are talking about the seismic betrayal unfolding in the heartland of American, cattle ranchers and beef farmers. The very farmers who back the red flag and red hat rhetoric of DJT and the MAGA movement are now finding themselves in tears, feeling abandoned and betrayed, and wondering if their loyalty was actually one-sided. We have soybean farmers being crushed by the trade wars. On the other, we have cattle ranchers and MAGA beef farmers actually staring down at cheap imports from Argentina flooding their markets. And the question hanging in the air is, did they actually get sold out? But let's check out these videos that I've compiled for you. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit that like button. Don't forget to leave me your comments. I'll be back with more commentary after this.
Donald Trump just had the nerve to say that he saved American ranchers and that we wouldn't even have beef in this country if it wasn't for him. He's saying this as he's actively flooding the U.S. market with cheap imported Argentina beef, undercutting American farmers and driving them into bankruptcy. Even Trump-supporting ranchers say they feel betrayed. Look at this.
I'm very happy about that. We're going to do something very quickly and easily on beef to get it down. The ranchers understand that. They're so happy for what I've done. I saved them. I don't think you'd have any beef in this country if I didn't do that. So we're very proud of that. Yep.
Isn't that just unbelievable? He could not be more delusional if he tried. Trump has the nerve to say he saved U.S. ranchers while his trade policies are actively crippling them. His choice to massively increase beef imports from Argentina has caused U.S. cattle prices to plummet. Independent ranchers, the backbone of rural America, are being squeezed out while multinational meat corporations are profiting off of cheap foreign supply. The irony here is painful. Many of these ranchers supported Trump in both elections, believing his America First lie. But now, even lifelong Republican farmers from places like Texas to Oklahoma to Arkansas are starting to speak out. And rightfully so. He betrayed them. He sold out to foreign producers and lied straight to their faces. And to add insult to injury, he's now on TV saying these ranchers should be thanking him despite the fact they're going bankrupt because of his policies. A billionaire is helping massive corporations and not the American people. How surprising is that?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm starting to get real suspicious of whatever Trump is doing with Argentina. You already know that Trump has blown up the Chinese market for American soybeans. And now Argentina is sending their soybeans to China. And then we bailed out Argentina to the tune of $40 billion. Now look at this. Trump is suggesting that America is going to buy beef from Argentina to bring down prices for the American consumers. Yeah, American beef is high. You know why? Because there's a monopoly. But instead of addressing the monopoly, he's going to import beef from Argentina, who has already taken the American soybean market and has already been bailed out by the American taxpayers. So now we're blowing up the American beef market too? Trump has to be doing the bidding of another country to destroy America. There is no way you can make any of this make any sense.
You want to know what blows my mind? The fact that we live in a country that used to feed the world, and now we're importing beef from Argentina just to keep up with demand. And then you got diabolical supervillains like Bill Gates trying to force feed everybody his own weird lab-grown petri dish meat. None of this should be considered progress. This is intentional collapse. Look, I'm a cattle rancher. I live this life every damn day, and I can tell you firsthand, this doesn't happen by accident. The policies that gutted American ranching, they weren't just bad decisions. They were strategic. If you haven't noticed, and I don't really expect that you have, well, nearly 700,000 independent cattle ranches have vanished since the 1970s. You think that's a coincidence? It's not. It's consolidation. It's control. It's the same story playing out across every American industry. Take the heart out of rural America, replace it with corporate supply chains, and then pretend it's about efficiency. Meanwhile, you're paying higher prices for beef that's been shipped halfway across the planet, while local ranchers, they're shutting their gates for good. Tell me how that makes sense. It's not about supply and demand. It's about making you dependent. If we can't feed ourselves, we're not free. And and they know that. You don't have to be a rancher to understand what's going on here. This is a national security emergency, period. Because when your food supply is outsourced, your future is held hostage. Your children's future is held hostage. And when ranches die, the town dies. The feed stores close. In fact, one just happened to close right here where I live. The mechanics pack up, the schools close down, the families move away, the culture disappears, because you can't replace ranches with imported beef and expect to still have a backbone as a nation. It doesn't work like that. I own Fat Cow Ranch here in Wyoming, okay? We do things the way that they're supposed to be done. No shortcuts, no antibiotics, no chemicals, no fake labels, just American beef raised by American hands on American soil. And I'll give it to you straight. Rebuilding this industry isn't going to come from politicians. It's going to come from men and women who refuse to let this country become dependent on anyone but itself. We need producers again. People who actually build, who raise, who produce something of value. That's how a nation stays strong. And that's what's missing right now. Pride in production. We used to celebrate the people who built this country. Now we ignore them, we regulate them, and we replace them with imported product. It's not right. But that ends when we start paying attention again. When we start choosing American beef. When we start choosing local over corporate. When we start giving a damn about where our food comes from and who's putting it on our tables. Because this isn't just about ranching. It's about sovereignty. And if we don't reclaim it now, there won't be anything left to protect.
So Trump said we should buy our beef from none other than Argentina. Imagine being a farmer, though. Like, for real. Imagine being a farmer. Back in March, when Doge, cut all that USAID funding, it put thousands of farmers at risk of losing their farms because they were selling their produce to the U.S. government. Now they don't have anyone to sell their produce to. Then thousands of farmers over the summer have realized they're going to be in the red because ain't nobody buying their soybeans because Trump started a trade war with China, and China was like, we'll buy soybeans from Brazil and Argentina. Then last week, Trump was like, we're not going to give Argentina $20 billion. We're going to give them $40 billion. And I'm going to sell it to you like it's some kind of currency swap. It's a little loany loan, we're just going to help them out because they're fighting for their life. Meanwhile, American farmers are also fighting for their life, but whatever. And now this week he was like, hey, cattle farmers, I know you're struggling because of a lot of things. The tariffs are part of it, but drought and increased grain prices and the screwworm in Mexico are all playing into this rising cost of beef. But, sorry for your bad luck. We'll just buy our beef from Argentina. Argentina, your competitor for soybeans. Now we're going to buy their beef? He could have picked any other country, literally, that exports beef, but he picked Argentina. It's peculiar. I don't know. I guess this is what winning feels like. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just screwed every time we go to the grocery store because who cares about the American people? Trump didn't run to be president because he cared about the American people. He was on a revenge tour and we're all paying the price. Anyway, y'all have a great day.
President Trump plans to flood the beef market with beef from Argentina to help combat the high beef prices here in the United States. Let me tell you why that is a bad idea.
Oh, please, do tell. I am all ears to hear your sound reasoning as to why lowering the cost of beef for the everyday hardworking American, for the everyday man like me and everybody else, by flooding the market with perfectly good beef from Argentina is a bad idea.
For one, the first time in decades, the farmer and rancher is able to finally turn a decent profit and put that money back into their farm and ranch and help keep their ranches alive.
Exactly. How have y'all been turning that profit in the first place? You guys have been raising the price of beef at a ridiculous amount. At a Food Lion, just the cost of beef chunks alone is up to $82. That's your idea of turning profit, by sitting there making it next to impossible for people to afford.
Second, if we cheapen American beef, we're going to fall back into the same trend that we were 4, 5, 6 years ago, where we're losing 10 to 20,000 American ranchers every single year.
Cheapen the price of beef? As of right now, people can't afford it in the first place. Y'all saw an opportunity to get greedy and raise your prices to an absorbent amount to the point where nobody can afford it. If you want to blame somebody for the American rancher going down, blame yourselves. Blame the fact that you let your greed dictate how things are supposed to be.
Why would somebody try to continue on a ranch or pass it down to their kids? Why would their kids want to run a ranch that's not even able to make a decent living?
First off, fuck your kids and passing down a ranch to them. Your kids wouldn't even have a ranch to pass down to anyway if people can't afford the fucking beef. Why would I give a fuck about your kids not being able to have their ranch if I can't even afford to feed my kids? So again, fuck you and your kids and your ranch.
And third, a lot of these people are the ones that voted for you. What happened to the America First policy, taking care of the American ranchers and the American people first before anybody else?
You're right. You chuckle fucks did vote for him, despite the fact that people told y'all this is how things would turn out. You and the rest of the ranchers, working men, voted for a billionaire thinking that somehow he had something in common with you. A man that has never done a single day's work in his life. Y'all saw an opportunity to be greedy and you took it. And now you guys are surprised that this is what's happening? America first means you should take care of the ranchers and us first. Fuck you and all that American first bullshit. What about everybody else that's struggling? They need help too. But because it's y'all that are hurting, now you guys want to complain about it? Now you guys want to see an issue with what's going on? You bastards are starting to see what it's like to be a bottom bitch, and I don't feel bad for y'all in any way whatsoever.
Now, I'm not saying imports are bad, but flooding the market and making it worse for the American ranchers is not the way to go about this.
If it means y'all suffer like the rest of us, I see nothing wrong in what's going on. I am all for buying Argentinian beef.
How do we get the cost of beef down? We got to get the cost of production down for the American ranchers.
Maybe if y'all had listened when they told y'all voting for a man that wants to impose tariffs on every country that has all the things y'all need for your production value, if y'all had listened, the cost wouldn't be so high. Maybe if y'all didn't let your hate and greed be the reason why you guys handed over this country to a madman that got rid of all the farmhand you guys had, y'all wouldn't be in this situation right now. Excuse me if I don't feel bad for you, and I welcome the Argentinian beef. Y'all can get fucked, lose your farm, and I don't care.
And as always, guys, buy American, buy local, and God bless.
I'll buy American and local once y'all start making it reasonable for the everyday working man to be able to afford it too.
I hope you guys know how interesting things are about to get. Many of us on the left have been warning Trump supporters that Donald Trump is a toxic narcissist, as is much of the administration, and everybody eventually gets burned, and you're going to get burned. And American cattle farmers right now, we are watching a full-blown narcissist attack against cattle farmers. So if you don't know what's going on, Trump has decided that because beef is so expensive because of his tariffs and his deportations, he's going to purchase beef from Argentina. And by flooding the market with more beef, bring the costs down for all of us. And the immediate response of the American cattle farmers, almost overwhelmingly, they probably voted for Donald Trump, are like, what? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? This is hurting us. And here's where it gets interesting. Trump responded exactly like a narcissist. He essentially said, you cattle farmers don't know how good you have it under me, which is gaslighting. And he said, you guys need to lower the price of your beef because you're basically the reason beef is so expensive. Classic narcissism. Classic attack. It's classic. I can tell you right now, they are going through something. If anybody's been on the receiving end of that kind of narcissistic blow, it's traumatizing. But I got to tell you this. These Trump-supporting cattle farmers are not going to get any sympathy from other MAGA voters. See, this is also where, like if you're part of a church environment where the pastor is a narcissist and you get burned and you wake up and you start crying to the other parishioners that are still under the narcissist's spell, they turn on you. They're not going to be there to back you. These other MAGA supporters, MAGA voters, are not going to support these cattle farmers when they start turning on Donald Trump. And that's going to be another type of trauma these farmers are going to experience. Now, I, on the left, can behave just like many Trump supporters have behaved to this date and say, too bad, farmers. You asked for it. I don't care. All I care about is the price of beef is going down. Yay, Donald Trump. That's all I care about. I could say that, but I'm not MAGA. This actually hurts me to see all this, having been on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse myself. This is just pay attention, you guys. This is going to be a big awakening for that part of America.
Alright, everybody, there you have it. Actually, these people are waking up to the fact that the orange man never put them first. Actually, from the beginning, they were just in a delusion. They never wanted to listen to, black folks and people on the left when they were screaming that this man was actually going to betray you all. But because of hatred and racism, they decided to go ahead and vote against their best interest, regardless of the fact that this man did exactly the same thing back in 2017 when he was first president of the United States. It's exactly the same policy. It's exactly the same story. American farmers were crying for bailout. They were getting bankrupt by tariff wars. Well, fast forward in 2025, the story is still the same, even worse actually, because this cult, this delusion that is the MAGA movement never actually seems to be ending. And the funny thing is that they always want to come here online and cry for sympathy when they're getting affected. But whenever nothing affects them, they are in big disbelief because they do not want to accept that the man that they hoped was going to make America great again and put America first actually is the man that is hurting them the most and betraying them. So let's start here. For decades, farmers and ranchers have been sold the image that they are moral backbone of the country, the people who feed the nation, and the ones who keep the country alive, while cities actually argue about politics. When the orange man came with the America First policy, that message actually hit home. Farmers felt seen. They finally thought that this was someone who would actually have their backs, and that's why so many in rural America went all in on MAGA. But what are we seeing right now? Is the orange man really keeping his promise? Because the flooding of cheap Argentinian beef in the American market feels like the whole America First promise flipped on them, and they are feeling betrayed. They cannot actually agree. They cannot even understand how the man who was supposed to save America, bring back jobs to American soil, punish all these countries that were ripping America off with big tariffs, actually went on and betrayed them. They felt like they were part of the brand, but never the business plan. This is exactly why a lot of these cattle ranches and beef, farmers are feeling betrayed by, the orange man. Yeah. You getting this late because a lot of people tried to tell you all, but you never wanted to listen. The man did the same thing to you all, but you never wanted to listen. Rural America actually overwhelmingly voted red. They voted Republican over the last 3 elections. Agriculture jobs have been shrinking due to automation, and after all this, being the stronghold, the base of the Make America Great Again movement, they cannot understand how this man is doing what he's doing, especially how he's hiring them and giving bailouts to another country that is in competition with them. We all remember how Arkansas farmers were crying, asking the orange man for bailouts and to stop hurting American farmers actually because of the tariff trade wars. But he never listened. They say that the country does not have enough money, and the funny thing, it's in the middle of a government shutdown, but they got $40 billion to give to Argentina. That's exactly what people are not understanding, because you're cutting on Medicare, food stamps, SNAP benefits, because you claim that the government does not have money. You are laying off a lot of federal workers, saying that the government does not have enough funds to actually go ahead and pay these people. But yet in the middle of all this chaos, in the middle of all this government shutdown saga, you got $40 billion to give to Argentina, and on top of that you want to import cheap beef to the United States and flood the American market with cheap beef. That is actually a sting in the back of your own base supporters. These people actually carried you. and yet again you go ahead and do this. So that's why a lot of them cannot believe their eyes what's happening right now, and they're coming on social media in the millions, admitting that they regret their vote. They never voted for this. What did you actually vote for? I'm curious. Tell us, what did you actually vote for? Did you vote for other people to get hurt except y'all? Well, karma is a bee. We all know what happens when you wish other people negative things, to happen to other people except y'all. Karma takes care of y'all. But let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think about today's video and, the orange man planning to import cheap beef and flood the US market with cheap beef, which is exactly going to hurt American cattle ranchers. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave me a comment and don't forget to hit that like button. See you in the next episode.